wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk with Larry here about, about Luther, but also about this music and where this music has taken us as Black people. It's really hard to listen to that Luther was, and other Black musicians like him, like People Bryson and others, as we saw as incredibly successful, but they really felt like they were searching for something that was beyond their reach. Can you talk a little bit about that?
For the last 25, 30 years at Berkeley as a professor, I've taught the course of the history of Black music. And one book I'd like you all to read that was written about 25 years ago by Nelson George, who was a great newspaper man, called The Death of Rhythm and Blues. And I think that as we watch this movie, we recognize how we have not lifted up our Black artists and protected them in a way that we should. We say we love them, but Luther Vandross died alone with nobody checking on him for several days because we made light of diabetes. I'm a diabetic. Many people in this room are diabetic or have family members that are diabetic. It is not a thing to be reckoned with in high blood pressure. And Luther suffered from both of those, and so do many. And so it is very something that we need to be far more serious about in terms of the people we've lost. And let me say, without being a downer, that Clive Davis didn't only handle Luther Vandross, who's dead, and Whitney Houston, who's dead, but he also handled Phyllis Hyman, who's dead. And so we have to look at the number of our Black artists and everything that, how they say, everything that glitters is not gold. And I think one of the things in the movie that was so powerful is how our children and young people and so many artists are so in love with the notion of fame and being a celebrity. And people don't take care of their health, and I'm not just talking about their physical health, but their mental health, in a way that makes you move away from denial and begin to look at the situations you're facing. Let me just say this and go back, Lisa, to you. One of my friends works in Boston. She was going to be here tonight, but she's been stricken with COVID. And she works in the area of adopted Black and brown children. And she said one of the major increasing levels of these children being given away and put out of their homes when they're young teens and others is because his parents suspect that they may be gay. So I think there's a lot of denial and things that in the Black community and the brown community that we need to look at very seriously, how people are having difficult times trying to affirm who they are. We know that the suicide rate, as we read among Black males, is increasing. And let me say at the end of that story, when Mama Vandross spoke to me on the phone, I was too timid to say, well, I'd like to meet with you all next week and meet Luther and sit down with you after we had the 2.5 hour conversation. But I didn't get to do that because the next week he had the stroke. And when he had the stroke, everything closed down. And so that book by Nelson George, and I think that those days of the great Luther Vandross and many others who shared that stage with him. I don't know how many people in the audience are old enough to remember another young Black man who helped pave the way, and they may have not been a Luther, was a young man named Ronnie Dyson, who was in Hair and who had several major hits. You remember, if you let me make love to you, then why can I tell you? Remember that song? Ronnie Dyson died of AIDS, and Ronnie Dyson was a great R&B singer and worked close with people like Melville and others. And let's not forget some of our older artists who were crooners, and we have put them to the side because we don't think that they were relevant to our community. But Johnny Mathis has about 80 albums out and he's still alive. And he really was the one that really had a great impact on our grandparents and our parents and us. And so there are many, but let me turn it back over to you, of Black men that have been overlooked.
Right, but I was going to ask you, there is this important legacy, but what's happened to that music? Why is that music? Why are we seeing like boy bands and
Because
not
we
seeing
have
this
chosen to follow the money machine and to deal with things from the waist down rather than the waist up. Luther Vandross and Johnny Mathis and many others thinking about things from the waist up. Love comes from the waist up. But now everything's about I want to do you twice. And I'm so old and my Viagra's out, but I'm still going to do you 3 times. And so the
this is not
idea,
recorded, I hope.
the idea is that commercialization and the complete crossover notion there is no more R&B. That's why on the stage today, I brought with me, because this is one of the things I'm going to be critical of all our black artists about. I brought DJ Scape Jr. with me as a young brother who's out there, because think about all the black artists you so admire and love. How many of them have somebody that they nurtured along publicly that you know that is a part of their legacy? Name them. They all died, and there was did Aretha leave anybody? Has Dionne Warwick, she's still with us, is she never, who did Whitney leave? What about Prince? Let's think about, have they passed the baton down to the next person? And so I think we need to look at this. This is very, this is a very sad movie.
Oh, isn't it?
It was a very sad movie. It was a good documentary, but it was sad because it brings to mind the perpetual denial that we're in about our family. But oh, to get better, I got a little bit of sugar. And all of that stuff that we continue to be a part of our legacy. P.O. Bryson, you know, had a stroke, but he recovered from it. But there's a lot of our great artists who have suffered seriously with these kind of conditions, because we as a community have got to, starting with our family members, but with people who we really love. Is it really sensible that Luther died in his apartment alone with nobody, and they had to break the door down?
I think that's the whole. I think that's a big part. The film is sad. It's you know. Sorry, we lured you in with music, and then we. But I mean, I think it is really important to understand. For me, Luther was such my teens and my 20s, and that beautiful voice, and Whitney was the same way. And it's true. What was heartbreaking was that he was constantly searching for something that he could never attain, and it was love. It was any love, but it was also that crossover. It was also that I need new listeners. I need people to understand who I am. I need to have my legacy go, and just constantly chasing that.
Indeed. And the song Any Love, one of my favorite songs. I've never heard that song before. But in fact, think about and analyze the lyrics. He didn't want just love. He was ready to take anything, is the way the lyric. That's a pretty dysfunctional disposition to embrace. But if you're that lonely and that kind of, money doesn't make one, the whole cliche thing, it's not about money, it's about having people around you who love you.
Well, that's the whole thing about fame too. So I just want to ask one more question, and that is about the legacy of Luther, the legacy of this music. And we all know, I mean, you don't hear this music anymore. We're so hungry to sing it. We're so hungry to have it be back and part of our lives, singing it at the top of your lungs. But what is that legacy?
I think that R&B, black music, is on the critical list. It's on the resuscitator. I think that, in fact, you just start to name some of the people who are doing authentic, black-centered R&B that is not dealing with things in the way that I'll kick your ass, I'm good in bed, I can outrun you. Just think about where we've gone. Just think about, at one point you had Stevie Wonder and Al Jarreau and Jeffrey Osborne and George Benson and I can just go down the list, but the hour was too late. Now, who are the ones that are replacing those great epic male and female singers. Who is the next Aretha Franklin or Dionne Ross? Who are they? People, Dionne Ross, 80 years old, still doing her thing with 5 grown children. And so far, those children have not embarrassed us. Okay? So the legacy of what's going to happen, I think that R&B and we, that's why, here I go, that's why the next election is vital. We should take these opportunities. I'm not trying to be a downer, but we should take these opportunities when we look at the tragedy of Luther and Whitney Houston and Phyllis Hyman, and we can just go down the list. We should take this opportunity, Michael Jackson, Prince. We should look and check in on our families, and we should check in on the schools and other places to see how is this music being preserved? Where is it being preserved? Who are the ones that are picking up the mantle and moving with it? There's a few, but I think that is not enough. And so in terms of legacy, if we're removing books from the libraries that really talk about the lives of great black artists, great black artists, how many of our young people know about the great Paul Robesons and Anita Simone's and many others who lived and not only sang and sang pretty love songs, but dealt with songs that dealt with the political and sociological and historical aspect of the black experience. That ain't happening. So I'd like to hear from somebody here maybe.
Does anybody have any questions? Any thoughts?
While it's sad that he was looking for any love, in the beginning of the movie, near the beginning, when he decided to concentrate on music, what he said was, no matter what, I'm going to get this music right. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going after it. And he met that goal. He wanted the music to be great, and he was great. Because there are a lot of people that's their dream, and it never gets there. They never get the opportunity. They never can get their voice to be. His voice was fabulous. His composing was fabulous. He met the musical goal. I know he didn't the other things, but there is a goal that he did.
But historically, people of African descent have always met the goal. The fact is that the Supremes never won a Grammy Award. The fact is that Luther Vandross was stopped 9 times before he won a Grammy. So I think we get to change and shift what we see as excellence, and with the dominant group telling us that we have legitimacy because we won one of their awards. And so in fact, what I'm saying is Luther really didn't accomplish that, or with all due respect. Luther died in his house alone without any love, without the Grammy, without several of those things that he worked so diligently and in such a way of perfection to accomplish. And so I think we get to, as difficult as it sounds, we get to look at that and talk about that. And I love Luther. He left a great legacy. That will be remaining if we allow those records and other things to be preserved in our libraries and that we promote it. When I talk to many young people today, they thought that's old. Everything that's old, anything that's over 5 years old is old, and we don't play that anymore. We don't deal with that anymore. So.
No, I know. I do think it's important too.
It's like having grown up in Europe, and Luther Vandross and someone like Tina Turner was totally embraced. They loved us. But maybe some of that love here was like, the crossover didn't happen because there was a real sort of pigeonholing going on here. Like the crossover was easier there. I mean, regardless of there's racism and everything like that, but I'm just saying the embrace was there in Europe, and here the crossover was more difficult for people like him and like Tina Turner.
Let me just say with what she just said, one of the other things, to get back to the issue of Luther's accomplishment,
we create and discard, and others, this is not my quote, recycle and document. And so in fact, R&B is not now being done by black artists, it's being done by non-black artists. Okay, and the only music that resembles music with a certain level of feelings and storytelling is country music. Everything else we don't recognize as being in that realm of music done by some of our great artists that have passed on.
Yeah, exactly. You see, I think one more question.
Yeah, I know it's gonna be a while, but I feel that we're so caught up in reaching the pinnacle of a Grammy to feel like you're the best or what have you. Luther don't need a Grammy. He's bad all by himself. I mean, if you look at, let's just say the Oscars, Angela Bassett, never won an Oscar or anything, but she is a dope actress. You know, Raquel, he never won a Grammy. He is a great MC or lyricist, as someone put it. So, of all the greatest artists that are out there, you don't really need a Grammy to define who you are. That's how I look at things. So.
But the problem is that society tells you that that's what you need, that's the pinnacle.
True.
And as Larry said, it's not our award necessarily, it's the award that society says the only way that we're going to tell you that you're the best is if you win this thing.
And
Right, and you're constantly searching for that, which he won 9 times, and then on his, you know, and he was.
But historical law should understand Motown was the #1 record company in the damn country, independent record label. And none of the Motown artists won Grammy awards until in the 70s. Because Barry Gordy could not report to the Grammy people. We're talking about the Temptations, Smokey Robinson, Dionne Warwick, the #1 group in America, second only to the Beatles in the world, because the white folks found out how much money Barry Gordy was making in Motown, they want to shut him down. So even though we may say it doesn't matter, it did matter in terms of the revenue and what would happen to those companies. It was not until Marvin Gaye and the Temptations, Marvin Gaye did What's Going On, and the Temptations and Stevie broke through when Barry Gordy would show up at the Grammys earlier on with a white guy. And everybody thought the white guy was Barry Gordy. And when you go to check into a hotel, the white guy would walk up and they'd say, "Who is this?" And he said, "That's my nigga. And he gonna sleep on the floor and I'm gonna sleep in the bed." Barry Gordy's now, what, 96? And then years later, Barry Gordy ended up going to the Grammy Awards, and the white guy from the radio station walked like, "Hey, how you doing, Barry?" He said, "No, that's Barry." That's the kind of stuff. And so it's one thing for us to say, you don't need that to be successful, but we believe in the legitimacy of that. We believe in the legitimacy of the PhD. We believe in the legitimacy of the Tony. We believe in the legitimacy of the Grammy, etc. And so the point is that it's fundamentally unfair, and that's what played so much on Luther Vandross' psyche and so many other people's psyche, is that they didn't win. And even people like Whitney Houston and Beyonce, they would break them in on the black station first and always consider them to be a black artist rather than just a general American artist. So this has resulted in, as the book by Nelson George says, the death of R&B. And that book was written 25 years ago.
And on that note, there's so much to unpack with Luther. There's so much to unpack. We're talking about Beyonce still not winning Album of the Year, which is just crazy. But it says a lot. And this film, I think, says a lot, not just about Luther, but about this music and about what should actually be really important. And it's not going to change. That's what award shows do. But I think you're right. I think it's about really honoring these singers, giving them that space, giving them love, looking out for people, mentoring, young artists that are coming up, because that's really important, whether you're a singer, whether you're an actor, whether you're a dancer, it's really important. I love that there's so much more focus now on mental health. That's right. For creatives, we really need it, because we are constantly striving for something that, maybe was created for somebody else, but we think it's for us. So absolutely. I think it really is. I think it's really important.
Support your local black and brown artists. Go out and see them in a club. Like, I want to congratulate you because this is a wonderful, wonderful institution. And you have stuck with it. But you can do that. You can write to the director of this movie and say, I love the movie, and share those kudos. These are the things that you can do now. When you see somebody being maligned on TV or on the radio, you can write a letter and challenge that. Artists need that. They can't always speak up for themselves. Believe me, I know.
That is a wonderful ending to that. Go out to the theater, come to the film festival, go to dance programs, really support. There is so much great local art that's going on in this city, and they need your love. Any love. Thank you all so much for coming. We hope you'll be with us over the course of the next 8 days. We are now 89 films left for you to see. So please make sure that you come see us. Thanks so much.